it would be a conspiracy if that's what we were saying. But this is no conspiracy because they're not really hiding it. It's out fully, open, in the public.
Man makes history. And then add to it, of course,
people who are weak and cannot help themselves.
That's something that concerns me.
It's very scary.
I'm still trying to figure out what the difference between us is.
I don't find it possible to say no.
What will you do if you're the king of an empire and you rely on the slavery of your people to keep you rich and powerful? But you see your people waking up and starting to show dissent. What would you do if you wanted to stay in power?
And then add to it, of course, what he makes of history, he had to make of history. Determinism is precisely that view, that human actions certainly have effects.
But, you know, I think that if you go beyond these theories...
The term is frequently used to smear people and groups, not necessarily for being one, but merely for associating with one. So what is this unacceptable ideology?
You know, we would have a good audience among the conspiracy theorists. If the Jews really were running the world, we certainly could have done a better job.
The world order is a conglomeration of people who agree on the same goals, and they run the world.
There really is something, you know, a kind of what's the definition of membership in this? And we're looking at power, and so the definition that we used was people who influence the lives of millions across borders on a regular basis.
Also those wearing the uniforms.
It's a much bigger plan.
What's that plan?
They're trying to get their nasty cabal hands on all of us, turn us into marshmallows, and turn off our brains, put us into artificial intelligence. Trump's here to save the day.
Are we at one of those moments in history in which there is the necessity for a new world order?
Now, could I prove that?
For the world order, they want to see everybody poor.
Then they can control them, is that it?
They can control them, and also it's much more satisfying to have a castle and a yacht if you know that all the peasants down there will never have these things and compete with you, you see.
Right.
And that was the beginning of the Golden Triangle, which continued on into the years of U.S. intervention in Southeast Asia.
But those who sit at the top of the pyramid, the financial behemoths running this oppressive and violent economic order, have largely operated in the shadows.
And they make their money out of monopolies, and with their monopoly they control the governments, they control the banks, and they set their prices. And it's an extortion system, really, just like the Internal Revenue Service in this country. I traced it right back to the Middle Ages, the black hand of the mafia.
Oh, yeah, there it is, cabal, exposing what Joe Biden and global elites are planning to do.
What is known as the oligarchies, despite all the talk of reform of that period.
Is used as the emotional rubric, and political rubric actually, to cover and to justify these subversive operations.
There is no secret agenda about the Great Reset. They're shouting it from the rafters.
Well, in the 1930s, scientists wondered how Hitler could rule Germany and Stalin could rule Russia.
It's not me saying they want you to own nothing and be happy about it. It's them.
And I want to point something out to all of you.
Money is not power. Knowledge is power. Okay. And unfortunately for the world order people, information is catching up with them. You have channels of mass communication. In fact, if we were to get on national television with 30 minutes of what we're talking about today, you would have a revolution in this country. They can only survive by desperate defensive measures, by keeping us from reaching the American people with the truth.
And that is mostly based on awareness of such things.
One day they held a group think and decided to...
You're taking the entrance of the Temple of Baal.
It's really not that big of a deal.
Thing that you can see, this old ancient thing, but it was the Temple of Baal.
Let me tell you, it is a big deal. God will not be mocked on his own land by his own people who are covenant people.
They were waiting for the right thing to happen so they could rush in and save it.
But the issue is what the mark stands for.
So let's figure it out. Let's do something. Let's turn what you call a trickle down into a river of resources that's going downward into the coffers of every human being on this world.
And of course, we're fighting to do it despite of.
Just do the right fucking thing. How did we get here?
They either smear people or they don't allow them to be able to present their knowledge. There's so many different ways, techniques that they have that are certainly un-American.
I hope this makes you nervous.
Check this out.
Your United States can only be saved by waiting it out.
Protecting our families, #1 priority. But a lot of people feel like they can't protect because it's too dangerous. I know for years I felt I was not responsible enough.
Basically, they fear being caught, so someone more aware of mind control may limit what the black ops sources do to them.
Well, escape devices that carry unnecessary risks, 1,000 lives without a permit. So protect yourself, protect your family, and escape, and escape, and escape, and escape, and escape with the promo code BECK, and you'll save 15%. It's the promo code BECK, and escape.com, promo code BECK. Restrictions apply. See site for all the details.
That limits their options in manipulating you.
And all of their techniques and all of their goals come right out of the black hand.
Well, I'd like to give that IRS a backhand for their black-handedness, to tell you the truth.
You're very well aware of the Great Reset.
Let's just get crazy. If you wanted a better world, wouldn't you be willing to invest some of your money into that better world? And if that money goes to making sure that no one has to do this in the future and that we develop this these better communities in these places that have been fucked for decades. You don't want that? You don't want a better world for your children? You don't want a safer world? What do you want to do? Die with all this money in the bank? Like, it's crazy.
Those aren't my words. Those are his words.
You and I are having a different conversation. We're not doing that.
What? You're saying, I agree that we're going to have to update that because that's what's coming our way, but I don't think that's a good thing.
You know, CIA is about deniability, You deny it.
All those details before he meets the chief of the Foreign Service.
And everybody, it's my way or the highway, and there's no...
We're not doing that.
What?
I don't think you're understanding me. Let me try it again.
What? I agree with you.
This is the way
and I don't... But that's not the discussion that is happening in the world at all. It should be... with the digital revolution on our heels, we have to have this conversation.
Not yell at each other. Let's talk to each other, not kill one another.
It seems to me that that is less and less possible with all that has come out in the last 20 years. And I would like to ask you both, do you feel that the CIA today has a corruption problem? That it is internally, that it is becoming more and more of a criminal activity.
He's asking us therein to believe that the world is flat, in my estimation.
If you're here tonight, determinism says you had to be. We assert free will. We assert that you have particularly the free will to use your mind to think for yourself or not. And that...
Implanted memories, deleted memories, restricted memories, fragmented memories, and dimmed memories.
I mean,
yes, we don't have the wisdom to take over from the market, Glenn. It's
a system.
Dimmed memories is probably the most common. Thought suppression techniques such as dimming memories is something the shadow government do according to their agenda. The agenda is what is holy to these groups. They believe they are God.
But the words under God we take for granted. Those words were added to the Pledge of Allegiance in 1954 to exclude American communists. Communists, of course, are godless heathens. That piece of history is largely unknown, but the ideology behind it is probably the most known idea in American society.
You would sure hope that they forget about it. You would want to distract them, or even better, turn them against each other, so that they forget about their original cause. The mainstream media, which we all know is in the business of maintaining the status quo, is doing a great job at doing just that. They are reducing this global transformation that's going on, this beautiful shift in human consciousness, into a petty war between each other. They will continue to create sides for us to choose from. They will keep our minds focused on skin color and uniforms. They will tell us what opinion to have about events and other people. But what they will never do is bring focus back to the message of truth and change that is trying to be born and heard through this social upheaval.
Because, I mean, the United States, goes around the world. I come from Nicaragua, and I used to believe a lot in the United States. For me, this experience, as sad as it is a big lesson in life, You have two sides also to reconcile. You have a very dark side. I don't know the Soviet Union or the worst Stalin period of the Nazi era, but I know the dark side of America, and it's pretty dark.
If we took all his blood, we could save 5 other people's lives.
In a recent poll of No Values voters, 54% said death is the issue they'd like presidential candidates to speak more about.
Hey, news media. You have to ask the question, was Jeffrey Epstein attached to any intelligence service?
Unless the candidates start talking about no values issues, like molesting infants, they're not going to win us over.
Propaganda through their psychological control of human desires, emotions, beliefs, fears, and values. That's what media does to us. Corporate media does this by manipulating our feelings and our cognition of human beings worldwide and promoting entertainment viewing as a distraction to global inequality.
Don't be foolish. They're condemning themselves to death. Don't make a mistake.
That will never happen. Oh, wait, it did.
What happened in 1917 was the ruling class in America was panic-stricken.
By people with common class and financial interests.
I'm not going to even attempt to prove that they're just going to take over the world. That's not the plan.
This story is about 10 rather close relations of ours who seem to get into almost exactly the same kind of trouble we do. All 10 of these jolly characters lived in the same neighborhood and were all good friends. Good friends.
Kissinger has previously argued for a joint effort between the U.S. and China on that issue, saying it would result in, quote, maximum pressure and workable guarantees while minimizing the risk of conflict between the two countries. Kissinger added the U.S. must take into account the concerns of South Korea and Japan.
But if I could prove that influential leaders are working in concert with the World Economic Forum and the UN, and many of your leaders are there, and our leaders are there, and giant corporations are involved.
Like Coca-Cola, I mean, massive amounts of money come from those investment management firms. They go into Coca-Cola or American Tobacco or the auto dealerships. I mean, yeah, multinational companies, they need to have money, they need to have people invested.
Because it's really Wall Street that's setting those up and making those plans.
He's got a rare blood type, so you want me to cut out. Okay.
Thank you. Response, please.
Not doing it will be catastrophic.
It's nice, but we don't want just pandering.
Them giving a lot of their blood if he doesn't consent.
We want the streets to run red with rivers of blood.
But that's not what we said.
Do you have the right to take 1 drop of his blood?
God forbid.
Do you have the right to take all his blood?
Or have you done that and you know?
Although there's been talk of running popular No Values icon Branford Fisher as a third-party candidate, most are opposed to the idea.
We never said the World Economic Forum orchestrated the pandemic. Read for yourself.
The precariat is the working class people who aren't doing as well.
The level we're getting down to is now metaphysical and epistemological, which is very good. It's a good sign.
The language takes a holiday when you talk that way.
If you take an action where the cost to the individual is so minimal that he, in effect, won't miss it, and someone else is benefited by it, fine. There's no argument against that whatsoever. It's very nice, something. So you want me to cut out? Okay.
Thank you. Response, please.